What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another chance encounter.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building.
I'm joined today with Adriana Barrero. How are you doing today, Adriana?
Hey, I'm doing excellent today. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. And I got some, I think your mood's going to improve even more because I got some great news for you. Today, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we are joined by my very favorite member of the audience. And why is my favorite audience member here? It's because this is a chance encounter where I interview commercial real estate players. That means buyers, sellers, deal sponsors, passive investors, you name it. And you might ask yourself, why would you do that? And the answer is, if you've ever heard of a private off-market deal, the type that you're not allowed to publicly discuss, sometimes they're called 506B deals, then you should also know that the SEC requires that you have documentation of your prior substantive relationship, or else they'll get ants in their pants and they might take away your business, and that's bad. So I have people on here talking about their level of sophistication, appetite for risk, core competencies as it relates to the deals themselves. And the benefit to you is you will learn to more effectively communicate on the subject of a commercial real estate deal. And I quite frankly think that your career or exposure to commercial real estate is going to depend on that ability. But before we get too excited about real estate, Adriana, do you want to say a thing or two about yourself?
Yes. So I was originally born in Bogota, Colombia,
Mhm.
and now live in Austin, Texas. Have a beautiful family, three children that they are out of the house, and a lovely husband of 35 years. And right now, my passion is real estate. I sleep real estate. I eat real estate. I everything is real estate.
I love it. I love it. So let's get started with the first segment. I need to scoot over here. The first segment that we have, it's the five distinct motivations. But of course, before I do that, I gotta say, but wait, check your eight. Adriana, I don't know how good you are with technology or not, but maybe you can see through the camera and into the user's device, because down there might be this big, hideous subscribe button that they should probably do something about. Because, like, Gen Zs, they'll like judge you for that sort of thing. They'll be like, I thought I knew. Okay, it's a silly joke, but I do it in every episode. But the five distinct motivations. I've now interviewed literally hundreds of commercial real estate players, and everybody has their own unique why. But I found that they fit pretty neatly into these five distinct categories, and I go through them in every episode because at the end of the day, there are plenty of risks involved in real estate. So you need to know what exactly is going to make somebody basically keep them from throwing in the towel when the going gets tough. And the first one of those I found is preservation of purchasing power. What on earth is that? Well, some people, they either are making more than they actually spend on their own necessities, so they're going to be investing a certain portion of their income each year. Others, they are completely work optional, and so they have a portfolio of assets, and the proceeds from ownership is how they make ends meet. So you might ask yourself, well, why would somebody like that go through the hassle of investing in a commercial real estate deal? Well, there's a couple usual suspects. The first one is whenever inflation rears its ugly head, that's going to eat away from the purchasing power of your cash flow, so it's going to be time to make another acquisition. The other one that really stands out is if you can buy at a really steep discount, which of course everybody should attempt to do that, but the people who are more in the preservation of purchasing power mode, they're not going to bother pulling the trigger unless they're getting that really, really steep discount, like when there's distress in the property or an asset crash. Now, full disclosure, that's not where I am in my journey quite yet. What describes me much better is trading time directly for wealth. What's that all about? Well, I got a background in tech, and if you've been a high salary, high wage earner, then this might be something that occurs to you because you're going to find out that you're paying more in tax than anybody else, and so you have to start thinking it's like, well, what can you do? Me personally, it's from the tech that I was in is the CRM online funnel space, and I was helping a guy who was flipping 10 houses a month for years before he ended up hiring me. And so that hit me as, hey, I seem to be on the wrong side of the right business. And that's why I made that jump. Now, of course, I get that that's a little bit abstract for some people, especially youngsters. What tends to describe them a little bit better is they want to hustle like crazy for now so that they can fast track their retirement. Or the more common response for people of all ages is that they want to control their schedule a little bit more. They want to work fewer months per year, fewer weeks per month, or fewer hours per week, or something like that. And that is really why what attracted them to real estate. Now, of course, the one pitfall that you have to keep in mind about this particular motivation is that a lot of people think that this is secretly the reason why everybody is doing what they're doing. And I assure you that is simply not the case. Some people are fueled by ambition. They want to buy their entire hometown. They want that generational wealth to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job. And that's why they're going to hustle into their 90s. And I get that some people vilify that sort of mentality, but the fact is somebody has to be in the GP team who will not fall asleep at the wheel, because that means that the properties are going to be taken good care of, they're going to be maintained, and that is what the residents need the most. So the vilification I don't think is entirely fair, but of course there's another reason why some people end up being attracted to commercial real estate. Some people, they picked a sector of society, or maybe it's the environment, maybe it's animals, who knows, but they found out that there's a financial component to making a really big impact out there, and so that's why they're making their commercial real estate acquisitions. So Adriana, of those 5 different motivations, what combination of them would you say describes you best?
Well, I think there's a there's a couple of them for sure. I think one of the reasons why we got in real estate is because I see how is wealth preservation, and and as most people say, and a lot of people do say, it definitely when you are in control of your time and in control of what you want to do with your time, it gives us the freedom to be able to do what we want to do whenever we want to do. Obviously, there's a lot of sacrifices in between, and sometimes, it's not always playtime, but it will give us, it's the freedom that we can just, if I have to go see my family for a week, I can actually, say I'm going. I don't have to ask permission to anyone. And then lastly, I think it's just the legacy. I would love to just leave a legacy for my children. I see how they at least my son, he just loves real estate, and I think that leaving them a legacy so they can do better in the future, I think is amazing, to be able to leave that legacy for sure. So it's like, for me, it's definitely a mix of things, the
I,
three of them.
I love it. I love it. So the next segment here, though, it gets onto the risk assessment, tolerance for risk assessment question. And I like putting that in there because after talking about motivations, it's really easy to seem starry-eyed and optimistic. But it's important to realize that these deals take months to close, they take years to go full cycle, and you have to be prepared for that. And if you've ever been involved in a 506B deal, whoever the securities attorney was in the mix, and there really ought to have been one, otherwise that's a huge red flag. But they should have required that everybody involved fills out this super invasive financial questionnaire, asking questions like your net worth, stuff that's uncomfortable to answer. But when I was going through that questionnaire, I found one question in particular. It lacked utility. Basically, it didn't matter which of the multiple choice answers you chose. I don't think you could really use it effectively to understand where the person's coming from. So I made my own tolerance for risk assessment question, and it's a fill in the blanks. It is, there are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. So Adriana, it can be inside real estate, it can be outside real estate. What's something that's too risky for you to invest in?
Wow, I think it's crypto.
Hmm.
I I guess one of the reasons is because I really have I just can't understand how crypto really works. And that's outside of real estate. And
Hmm.
inside the real estate, right now, I think will be office. As we all know, after COVID, it just took a dip, and I don't see that. I mean, for now, I haven't seen really any improvement. And if ever, it's just a very, very small improvement. So definitely that was something that I will not look, not within the next couple of years, that's for sure.
I absolutely love those answers because I do understand crypto, but fundamentally it's an appreciation move. It's buy low, sell high, or lose, and you get no cash flow whatsoever while you own it. So I really think that's a fantastic answer, and I have the same pessimism about office space, just because I think that historically before AI and computers have been really effectively used, there's too much middle management, and so that means the office itself, it's not really helping big producers be more effective, and not to mention the commute, right? But I love that answer, which it actually brings me to the next question. And full disclosure, the favorite deal metrics slide, I did the first couple hundred chance encounters without including it because I felt like it was a little bit of an I gotcha for people who are more front of house, the PR, the marketing part of the organizations, these real estate organizations. And it really susses out the fact that somebody is not an underwriter, they're not a spreadsheet jockey, they're not going to be balancing all the different numbers to figure out the projections. But it hit me that even if you are that front of house person, you're still going to know. It looks like I got ahead of myself. You're still going to know some of these different numbers here. That's okay. That's why I found out why I hit play somehow. Anyway, you're still going to know some of these different numbers and use them to be able to choose which deals are basically better than others, or at least on the outside of the offering memorandum seem better. And for anybody in the audience who's only listening and not watching, I'm going to read out the list. I've got 14 of them on here, and it's not an exhaustive list, but it's pretty good. The first one is cash on cash. Then there's IRR, which is internal rate of return. It's also like the equity multiple is another term for it. Then there's the cost per door. Again, that's commercial real estate leaning right there. Then there's the net operating income of the property. There's the going in cap rate, which is really letting you know what kind of discount are you getting on this property rather compared to other properties in the areas that have recently sold. Then there's the loan interest rate, which is especially important these days because there's a lot of people trying to assume loans, that sort of thing. Then there's the occupancy rate, which is the inverse of vacancy. So it's the same thing, just inverse. That's important to know. Then there's the average income where the property is located, the amortization period of the loan, which is also especially important if you're going to be looking at agency loans, or if you're going to be assuming a loan. Then there's the difference between the market versus the in-place rents. Then there's the population growth where the property is located, because that basically bakes in a little bit of additional demand, and therefore appreciation is more likely. Then there's the sponsor record, which really means how many deals have already gone full cycle, how many deals are on the go right now. Then there's the waterfall, split, or exit strategy, which tells you what's going to happen to your investment after your principal, your capital has been returned. Then there's DSCR, which is debt service coverage ratio, which means how much of the revenue from rent is basically going out the door immediately, just in the form of paying for the loan. So, of course, this is not an exhaustive list, so you're free to add another one, Adriana, but which one's like a top three or something do you tend to focus on?
I think top three, one of them is the NOI, because at the end we want to take that NOI and improve it. So we need to have the basis of the NOI, and obviously on the long term, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever the business plan is, it's improving that NOI. So we need to have that basis, right? And then obviously the cap rate, the reason why we have to make sure that we are in a cap rate with it goes with each market. So it depends on the market. We cannot be paying a lower cap rate when you are not in such a popular area. So obviously figuring out that the cap rate that they're asking is really matching the market as well. Something that we also we have to be very careful, especially nowadays, is the sponsor record. We do have partners, and we partner up with people, But especially lately with what has happened in the economy and the amount of deals that have gone south, I think that spots of record is just invaluable. And it's not here, and you didn't mention it, but something that we really, and it's probably the first thing that we ever look before anything else, is crime. If crime is high, we don't even look at it. Doesn't matter how good the numbers is. It doesn't matter how the apartments look, beautiful, not beautiful. It doesn't matter. I don't want to look at it or even touch it if it's in a high crime area, which we have encountered a couple. And then immediately is the first thing that we looked at is the face metric. If it's not in a good area, we dished it. So that I will add to that list crime. That would be in our case.
I love it. I love it. And I'm just eating up that answer like a delicious subscribe sandwich. He looks pretty excited and happy about it, right? But that'll wake you up in the morning. But anyway, that's my reminder that I need to pull out the Dan Does Deals Commercial Core Competency Cube with the 6 different roles in a commercial real estate deal. And the reason I go through all 6 sides in every episode is because it really does help you understand how my guest fits into a real estate deal and which roles are required in order to successfully run one of these properties. And as I'm going through it, if you're sitting there thinking, hey, I really need to get me one of those cubes, well, the good news is it's absolutely free. You go to dandoesdeals.com, you can download your own copy. There's this big conspicuous button where it says download and brings you straight to the PDF. Yes, you heard me right. I committed the cardinal sin of marketing, which is you should never, ever, ever give away your freebie without asking for some sort of contact information, like asking for an email address. But it's so important to me that you get this straight, just because I told you that I'm going to help you more effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate deals. And a lot of people call these guys investors and these guys investors and those guys investors, and it's hard to tell. It's like, so what do you actually do? So you can check that out, but let's get started. The most visible people in commercial real estate deals are the repositioners, because they're looking at a whole bunch of different properties and doing a whole whack of paperwork. And what's that paperwork? Well, they have to underwrite the deal, which means they have to do the math, figuring out, first of all, is this property even making the amount of money that the seller/broker claims it is? Because but the other thing that the repositioner has to do is they have to figure out how are they going to change the fundamentals of this property so it has more upside to basically make more money. And the most peculiar part about repositioners is they have to have a vast network of financiers. Those are people who only deal with paper and money and the owners of the building. They are not sitting there fixing clogged toilets or anything like that. They're not part of the GP team. And the reason why repositioners need to know lots and lots and lots of financiers is because if you can secure a more advantageous loan, cheaper money, that goes straight to the profitability of the building. So that's why repositioners are constantly networking with financiers. Now, the next spot that a repositioner will frequently have to look to find that upside is they'll look into the operations to figure out where are those Benjamins going down the toilets. But of course, there's more to operations than just unclogging toilets and mowing lawns and collecting rents and all that kind of fun stuff. Me personally, with my CRM and online funnel and marketing background, the way that I fit into GP teams, especially in the larger properties that I tend to pursue, it's the vacancy rate issue. See, when you have a bigger property, you're probably going to be outsourcing the operations to a third party, leaving you without that much to do, unless there's a vacancy rate problem, which really is the deal killer. So if they cannot fill those units, somebody with some serious marketing chops needs to step in and get those units filled. And that's the contribution I've done in the past when it comes to these different deals. But of course, there's only so much you can do as far as making your operations more efficient. So the next place that the repositioner generally is going to look is to get a contractor team involved to do a value add, to upgrade the property so that the future residents will be more than happy to pay more in rent than the previous ones. Now, of course, you might be thinking, wow, if only things were that simple. And you'd be right. You could go ahead and gold plate the toilets, but I don't think it's going to really boost the NOI. So you got to be really careful with those contractors. And if you're like me, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm from the internet. So that means I need locals. I need boots on the ground, somebody who lives nearby who can be there in an hour or two. And I assure you, that's not going to be me. I'd still be stuck at an airport in an hour or two. So that's a really vital piece of the puzzle that I've seen some deals really fall apart because they failed on this part. The local has to keep an eye on the contractors, make sure they're not using subpar materials, make sure they're keeping to schedule and all that sort of thing, and then also making sure that the operations team are not sloughing photos. Now, the last piece of the puzzle, though, it's best explained with a little hypothetical. Let's talk about you for a second. Maybe you're a physician or an attorney or an engineer or something like that. Maybe you own a couple single family rentals, a few rental houses, and you're thinking about getting into commercial real estate. So you look down the street, you see a 350 unit apartment complex that's worth tens of millions of dollars, and you think, hey, wait a second, I know how rentals work. I put down my deposit, my down payment, and then I borrow the rest. So full of confidence, you turn around to your friends and family and all that kind of stuff. You say, hey, let's throw in $100,000 each or something like that. You turn around to the banks, the financiers, and say, hey, I want to buy that apartment complex down there. It's worth tens of millions of dollars. You don't happen to have, say, tens of millions of dollars you want to lend us, do you? And this is where you're in for a big surprise because the bank is going to say, who's your KP? Who's your deal sponsor? What's that all about? See, when you are borrowing from a bank or one of these different funds, these debt funds and things like that, then they need to protect the depositor capital. So they need to make sure that somebody in the fold on your team already owns a similar asset, or you're just not going to be accepted for the loan. On top of that, you need a certain amount of liquidity so that you can show you can actually run the building without running it into the ground and losing all the depositor cash. But also you need to put on collateral of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all those pieces, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So
Yes.
Adriana, as far as those 6 different roles, which hats are you most likely to take up in your next deal?
Gosh, well, I think something that is probably one of the most important roles is probably asset management. I think, as you say, we like to acquire 100 and over, 100, at least 100 doors for the most part. So we do work with third parties, and at the end of the day, you know, as they do, some of them have great references, but at the end of the day, it's not, they don't own the building. So it is in my best interest to make sure that they are doing their job. So, and especially if it's a new company, maybe a company that you have not worked before with, I think the work is you have to be there every day. You have to make sure that both people or both companies, their company, the management company, and you were both in the same page. Make sure that we have a very good throughout business plan, and also I believe systems and processes are great, and it's really the only way to manage this process, system process. If you have make sure that we get reports every week, make sure that the communication is super high, and at the end of the day, I've learned something super important is that we really have to make sure that our tenants are number one priority. Yes, we need to make sure that we have a great management team in place, and we have to treat them well. However, the ones that pay the rent is our tenants. We have to make sure that they're comfortable, that they're well, and we are taking care of them. So I think it's something that I would love to concentrate is in asset management for sure.
Yep, I love that answer, and I think a lot of people get into this business. They don't realize that those property managers, those on-site employees, they have to interact with the residents every single day, and they have to interact with the owners or the asset managers maybe once a week. So where do you think the priorities are going to be? So you really do have it is an important role, that asset management part, just to stay on top of things. But let's move on to the buy box. And Adriana already said some of her buy box already, which was the size component. But the important thing is that when real estate people are saying, hey, what's your buy box? What's your ideal property? What you're looking for? What's easier to say yes to and more difficult to say no to? We're really asking about 3 things. The first one is geography. Where is it? Which state? Which county? Possibly even which neighborhood? It's all going to be important before you call it ideal. And that's a huge one right there. The second one's going to be size. Now, in multifamily, the way that they define size is by the number of apartment units or unit count. And the reason why it's relevant is because the type of team that's going to take over 10 and 15 unit apartment complexes is going to be fundamentally different from the ones that are 100, 150, 350 units. And so you're going to need to know that size. Now, of course, there are other types of commercial real estate where it won't be unit count, it'll be square footage or acreage, but that size consideration still applies. Now, the third one is commonly called class. Adriana already mentioned that earlier when we were talking about the deal metrics, but I don't like the word class. I like the word desirability, and that's because it's split into two really distinct categories. The first one's condition, and then the second one's area. When you're talking about condition, we're talking about how old is the property, in other words, the facility, the building itself, how beat up is the building, you know, how recently has it been upgraded, and then what kind of luxuries and amenities are available to the residents there. That's the condition. Now, if you're talking about the area, the big considerations, as Adriana said, is the crime rate. That's always going to be important. If you are talking about residential, like apartment complexes, you know, multifamily, then the school districts are going to be very important as far as the desirability of the building. But the last part of that area is the old broker trope of location, location, location. I don't like that saying because I don't think it really tells you much, because what I think they're really talking about is traffic, traffic, traffic. If a gazillion people are passing by that property every single day, it's going to be more valuable than a place that's basically crickets all day, every day. But both the area and the condition are ranked the same way as in grade school, where you have A plus at the top, and then A minus, and then B plus, and so on. So Adriana, just for the virtual assistants and whatnot in the audience, what's your buy box? What you looking for?
So yeah, we're concentrating in, we could take up to a minimum of 80 units, about 120, between 80 and 120. That will be the amount of units. And then when it comes to the location or asset class, we want to stay with units that are built no earlier than 1980s, so 1980s and forward. And also we like to be, I've seen that we could potentially buy a C-class apartment complex, but it's sitting in a piece of land that is a B-class. And I've seen that, not too often, that because you can convert, potentially you can convert those C in a C plus or even a B minus. So, but we do pay attention is the area, right? The land, more than anything is the land. Because at the end of the day, if we have, let's say, even if we have a 1979 property, you have a lot of potential to bring it to, to B minus by doing the value add and so on so. But potentially, I think the most important part is really the piece of land where it's sitting, what the apartment or the apartment complex is sitting, which usually say B. And even if the apartment complex is a C, we can always make it a C minus or even a C plus or a B minus. So, and
Excellent.
then
And
that.
yeah, oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was going to mention about as far as the location in terms of states and cities. You mentioned you're in
So we
Austin.
we love Texas. As you know, Texas is a great place. We have seen the shift of the market when it comes to rents compressing. I live in Austin. Austin probably is one of the number one city that has been impacted the most around the entire United States. So we're definitely not buying in Austin. We're still looking to Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. Rents are a little tricky, especially with the amount of new units that are coming into the new market. That's a little worrisome. But we're still looking. There is some niche markets, maybe a smaller market in between those cities that is doing better. I've noticed that for the most part. We also looking in the Midwest. We recently purchased a property in Oklahoma State, in a city south of Oklahoma City. Great market. So we're staying for now, Texas, and like I said, some we're looking in some of the Midwest, just because those rents have been doing much better, and we've seen that there's not so much of that rent compressing in the last year or so.
I love it. I love it. And that brings me to people. And it's definitely my favorite part of this industry. And truth be told, maybe that's because I came from tech, where lots of people are pretty antisocial. And in real estate, we're pretty much the opposite. And I chalk that up to the fact that it's multifaceted. There are different roles in this industry. And so that means everybody is trying to give referrals, build new teams. And that's a fantastic thing. Of course, it's important to realize that everybody ultimately in this industry is in the business of deploying capital. So everybody's eager to meet more financiers, but with your own skill sets, there's a good chance that you're going to be able to help some people more than others. Me personally, with my marketing and tech background, the sponsors and KPs are the people who I've traditionally always looked for specifically, just because they've got the foundation already set up where a person like me can make a disproportionately large difference. But Adriana, as far as you're concerned, if you have any 506B deals, don't go mentioning deals and saying that you're looking for financier investors, passive investors, and all that kind of stuff. But you can if you don't mention any specific deals. But who's out there in the audience that you're most eager to speak to?
You mean as a key sponsor?
I'm saying, like, which roles of in commercial real estate are you most eager to speak with? Who can help your business? Who can you help the most?
Well, definitely, we love to work with other sponsors for sure. We raise capital, and at the end of the day, is developing those amazing relationships. I think we have met some amazing people the last couple, maybe about a year or so, and that's developing those relationships. Because even if you don't get to a deal, is how do we grow together? How do we help together? It doesn't have to be that we go together in a deal or not, but in so many ways I can relate. I can maybe know someone that can help you with maybe a contractor, maybe a management company. So we're here to grow, we're here to help one another. So we love to talk to sponsors, we love to be able to partner up, but at the end of the day, again, is developing those relationships. And at the end of the day, we're here to help an entire community. There's so many people out there looking for homes, and then that's what we like to provide, safe, clean, beautiful communities in which they can raise their children. So we're here to speak to sponsors, and we're here to help the community, overall.
All right, I love it. And of course, people in the audience must be thinking, wow, I need to find out how to reach out then. And I'm going to sandbag that conversation for a second and talk about myself. I'm fortunate enough to have this really distinct last name. It makes me really easy to find, especially on LinkedIn, where I spend most of my social media time. So that's the best way to reach out to me. If you happen to check me out on Amazon, you might find that I've got a few different business skill building related books that are up for sale. But if you are thinking about getting into real estate, especially commercial real estate, there's a good chance you'll have to start raising capital. Whatever your business is, that's a big part of it. And you need to know that there are regulations involved. So if you take a moment to pause the video, you can scan this QR code with your phone. That brings you to the FAQs page of 506BME, which is the platform where I offer the service of backing up and helping you accumulate your documentation of your substantive relations. The idea being that the SEC is not going to accept the fact that, oh, well, my laptop fell in the bathtub. That's not a good enough answer as far as why you don't have your documentation proving you had that prior substantive relation. So I can help you out with that. But Adriana, I know you're also very active on LinkedIn. We've been having lots of fun with this challenge over the last 10 days. Is LinkedIn the best way to reach out, or is there a website or phone, email? How should people reach out?
Yeah, definitely LinkedIn is the best way. I'm extremely active in LinkedIn, and you can DM me on that. You can find me in there, and that probably will be the best way to reach me for sure.
Excellent, excellent. And that brings me to the last part, which is actually not for you, Adriana. It's actually for you in the audience. It's my public service announcement. If you've been watching this episode and you've been experiencing like searing pains in your eyeballs and like migraine like symptoms, I'm confident it's all due to the downright hideous subscribe button that's down there that you may not have clicked yet. It's you just hit it and it goes away and it changes. Okay, full disclosure, the reason I want a gazillion people to click on it is because then those deadbeats at YouTube will actually start to pay for these videos instead of me. And I think that would be amazing. The trade-off to you is my videos may show up on your list of suggestions. There's no guarantees of that. But honestly, even if they do show up on your list of suggestions, you can go ahead and ignore them. Quite frankly, I just appreciate the fact that you spent this time with me. Just like Adriana, I appreciate you joining me. This has been great.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Make sure you 506B me. Any syndicators, make sure you 506B me.
Hi.
Oh, hey, yeah, here's my code. You got your QR code scanner? Okay, yeah, oh yeah, just hold it right in the square there. Okay, cool. And now you hit open in browser.
Okay.
Okay, are you already logged into 506B me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so there's my video. So now I'm already on your watch list. So when you get back to your hotel, you can find out what my core competencies are and my level of sophistication. Sound good?
Yeah.
I love your hat. Real estate's a scam. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
506B me, everybody.
Does nothing but put more money in the pot.
Right.
If we talk about just the investor side, I mean, Shane talked about the sponsor side a little bit. I'll talk about the investor side. Okay, so you want the most money in terms of return with the least risk. All right, you want to do it yourself, you can go get 13 or 14%. You're going to do all the underwriting, it's not going to be passive.
If you bet, probably not.
I think I'd have to bet at least 2,500 before they fold.
And the pot is
4,000.
4,000. Yeah, I think you're right, but I'd rather just check.
Okay.
First position, you have the right of collection and the right of foreclosure or sheriff's sale, wherever you're at.
Hey there, are you interested in commercial real estate deals? Would you like to build your network of investors and deal sponsors? Well, the best thing I can do for you is have you appear on a chance encounter interview as featured on dandoesdeals.com. You may know me from 506B Me or as a top commercial real estate voice on LinkedIn. And if I had to think of the top factors in your success in commercial real estate, my top two would be your network and your ability to effectively explain how deals work with effective communication. The 15-minute chance encounter format, it checks both of those boxes, and they ensure that you can share your private deals with me without the SEC calling it a public solicitation. So hop onto LinkedIn. You can see my name is over here, Dan Friedenberg, and search for my name. And the best way to reach me and book that is to message me through LinkedIn. And don't worry, it doesn't matter if you decided to enter this space just last week or 2 weeks ago, or if it was decades ago. It'll be fun and easy to look good. We're just asking multiple choice questions based on your core competencies you look to contribute, your level of sophistication, all that kind of stuff. So I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.